By the end of this video, you will learn how to model communication in a way that's appropriate for high schoolers. And if you know someone that's in high school, it will be sure to get them talking. Stay tuned until the end for our Stop Arguing and Start Communicating e-guide as a thank you for watching. I'm Amanda Pashuko. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist of over 10 years, and I'm here today to talk about discussing high school communication. I was specifically asked to do this video, so I'm going to answer some specific questions. Hit subscribe and the bell. I release a new video Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want new communication skills, you need new skill sets. Kind of makes sense. So let's talk about point one. When someone comes up to you and asks you to talk, what's the first thing you usually say? Whatever it is, it's not bad, it's not wrong. I'd love for you to type it below. Chances are, though, that you don't do what they taught us in therapy school. So what we learn is when someone says, hey, do you have time to talk? What we like to respond back is, yeah, I do, if you do, right? If you don't have time right then, we would say, I don't right now, and I have time for you at this time on this day. Does that work for you? So we would schedule a time. So that's if you actually can't speak to them in that moment, that's how you would do that. However, say you do want to talk to them and dive in. How do you say yes and be supportive of the person? Because they're coming to you with their needs in that moment, their feelings, their needs, their thoughts. So what are you actually agreeing to? What we've learned is to say, hey, is this a feelings conversation or are you looking for advice? Just asking that. Some people don't even learn that until they're 50 or older, because a lot of people, when they hear you talking, they just start giving advice, or they go into, oh, wow, how does that feel? And each of those are okay as responses. However, the most important part of communicating is that the receiver also gets the message. So a little tip for you is just to be like, do you want to talk about feelings? Or are you looking for advice? Just so that you have your listening ears attuned to what they're looking for. They might not want your advice. So if you're a parent or a high schooler, this will work with all high school age people, and it will even work for adults sometimes. Why does it work? Well, because we're not mind readers. So it's important to ask. Point two, let's talk about consent on all levels. Consent is a scary word because a lot of times people associate it with things like sexual encounters. However, I think consent needs to be discussed way before we get into things like sexuality, especially when we're talking about parents and teenagers. Often these two groups don't feel that comfortable talking about their sexuality. So what's important is consent on all levels, knowing that your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions are about you, and that other people's thoughts, emotions, and actions are about them. Now, here's the thing. If you don't have a license yet, and if you don't have money of your own yet, it could be that you very much are actually in a place where you're powerless. However, if you have some of your own money, if you have your own license, you are in a place kind of adulthood where you have some empowerment, some freedom, thus some more responsibilities. So consent is a responsibility, knowing that you don't have the right to someone's time, emotions, as you do when you're a child. You know, a child has a temper tantrum. It doesn't matter if you're in a meeting, they want you and need you then. But as you get older, as you become a high schooler, you're more in control of your life. And when that happens, you have more responsibilities towards talking to your friends and towards talking to your parents. Kind of think about this concept that just because you have a teammate, a boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, classmate, just because someone's in your life, it actually doesn't mean you have a right to their emotions. It doesn't mean you have a right to them giving you a ride. These are all things that actually are consensual, so we can start practicing negotiating with the people around us in a way where we get yeses from everyone. We're collaborating together, and everyone feels much better when we're doing that instead of being more judgmental. Which gets us into point 3, sarcasm. Sarcasm is a block of intimacy. Why? Well, I'm just joking. Why is it a big deal? It's a big deal because if you're trying to be intimate with someone and then someone's taking that moment to make a joke out of it, you don't really feel connected. You feel actually more uncertain and less significant. You don't feel like your needs of being seen or heard are met. If anything, the person who uses the sarcasm might feel a little bit better, but probably it's a strategy that they aren't intending to cause separation, but that's what also happened. I challenge you to be mindful of your jokes, and instead of working on the best sarcastic line or the most fun things to get everyone to laugh, what about working on your compliments or working on your ability to receive compliments? Because a lot of people don't like to give compliments, and they also don't like to receive them. If we can't even receive compliments, how are we going to receive criticism? So if you're sarcastic, please comment below. Let me know what sarcasm means to you, because if you disagree, I respect that, and I want to have a conversation and invite collaboration with you to discuss why you use sarcasm, because maybe for you it is something that is a building block, and I would love to know about it. Point 4, emotions are the messenger. So a lot of us are told, don't cry, don't get too angry, smile. A lot of things that reinforce that if we're not neutral to positive, our emotions aren't really valued. However, in the model that I like to use and what I've learned in therapy, emotions are actually the messenger. They're information to let us know that our needs aren't being met. So needs are something that we all have. Needs are things like certainty, uncertainty, connection, significance, growth, contribution. You can see cnvc.org to get a whole entire list of Marshall Rosenberg's NVC needs, and you can get a list of feelings. But the reason that we have feelings is because our needs aren't being met. So this is true of adults too. Adults and kids and teens, we all have needs. And when we do things, that helps us meet our needs. So emotions come up when one of our needs isn't being met. Anger comes up when something has crossed our boundary and we need to recalibrate and state the boundary and respect it. Sadness comes up when something's important to us. Joy comes up when we feel deeply fulfilled and nourished. Fear comes up when we believe things are moving too quickly. So these are all parts of things that are information. So when your friend comes to you, or a parent, sibling comes to you and they have a bunch of emotions, I want you to go back to what we did in point 1 and say, hey, are you looking for me to help hold your emotions here? Are you looking for advice? I want you to start by asking them what they're looking for. And then the next thing that I want you to do when you get to the point where they're actually being emotional is not shut them down and say, don't cry, don't be angry, but just sit with it and say, I hear that could really hurt. That sounds so tough. Basic. Practice them. Get a mirror. I know it's silly. Get a mirror, look in the mirror, practice saying these things. That sounds really tough. I hear that could hurt. That would be an example of me just holding space for someone who didn't need advice, but just wanted me to sit and listen to them. Instead of closing down that emotional state, I would want to just sit with them and know that they're okay, know that I'm connected. I'm not going to be sarcastic in that moment. I'm there attuning and I'm consenting to being there in that moment. And speaking of consent, another point. Seeking help in protecting our bodies. So if you're a high schooler, if you're a parent of a high schooler, it's important to keep going to the doctors regularly. It's important to talk about things like mental health, emotional health, intellectual health, sexual health, all the health, physical included. I know that's a lot. However, maybe talking about depression or anxiety with a counselor would be helpful. maybe talking to a doctor or parents about birth control would be helpful. If you have really strict parents and you have a friend who's asking you for advice and you don't really know anything, instead of telling them to go to Pornhub, maybe you could tell them to ask a professional like an OBGYN, a urologist, or their primary care doctor. Also, if you're over 16 years old in the state of Connecticut, you can have 6 therapy sessions without your parents even consenting. You're allowed to get that through your health insurance, 6 a year. That's not that much, but it's better than none. When you're 18 or older, you're considered an adult in many ways. However, if your friends are coming to you and you're not, you're 17, 19, 23, 14, at those ages, you don't have all the freedoms that maybe a 30-year-old would have. However, you can have your emotional intelligence. You can use your voice to speak up against things. If people ask you for advice and you don't know the answer, instead of pretending you know the answer, you can say, I really don't know. Maybe we should call someone. Maybe we should ask our guidance counselor. Maybe we should ask a teacher. It's okay to be curious. Curiosity, passion, these things are important. So I hope you learned a bit here about how to connect in a way that's different, how to consent in conversation, how to bring consent into every conversation so that by the time you get to sex, it's really easy to discuss, oh, this is my need, this is what I'm looking for, and it's just a dialogue. Also, be mindful of the timing you bring things up with, the tone of voice that you use, and the skill set are some of the things that we were talking about here. Thanks for getting to the end of this video. If you've been here, scroll to the bottom, get the Stop Arguing and Start Conversing guide as a thank you just for watching. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at The Sex Healer. I release a new video Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Feel free to say hi. If you like this video, click like, subscribe, and the bell. Also, your questions and comments are super appreciated, so please feel free to write us in. We hope that you had fun in this little video we made, and if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. Have a great day.